Hello and welcome to today's Write Book Author Talk. I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome our guest today, Kate Trafford. Kate is a master coach and TEDx speaker, and she speaks on the subject of authentic success. Hello, Kate. Lovely to see you.
Oh, hello, Sue. Thank you for inviting me. It's great to be here.
You're so welcome. It's great to have you on one of our author talks. It's been we've been looking forward to this one very, very much. Kate, first of all, I need to say to you, happy book birthday for yesterday. It was exactly a year ago that we published your wonderful book, Get There, Love Here, the busy professional's guide to authentic, enjoyable success.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Sue. I can't believe it's been a year. Honestly, I genuinely cannot believe it. It seems only like moments ago that we were planning for the launch and getting ready for distribution and so on. And the fact that the book's been out there in the world for a year already, it just, quite frankly, it blows my mind. But it's been quite a year, as you know.
Has been quite a year, has it not? And so much has happened and so much. I mean, I can't wait to dig into it. But first of all, let's talk a little bit about this. Let's talk about, where you began on the journey. It was a little while ago, wasn't it, Kate, that you first conceived the idea of your first book?
It was a very big while ago, Sue, as you well know. I probably was thinking about this book and incubating the idea of it for a good decade or so before I actually did the best thing that I've ever done in my life, which was get help. And really, it was we were due to meet. You might remember, Sue, we were due to meet for our book strategy day in Bristol on the 25th of March 2020. So everybody who is listening in right now can guess what happened to that meeting. It was the first week of lockdown. We made it online instead and we pressed on. And that even from that point, when we first looked at what was I really wanting to offer to my readers, what did I want to create and contribute, even then it was still another 2 years. You were so flexible with my deadline. As I really got underneath the book I most authentically wanted to write and to kind of offer into the world. And, it was once we pinned down those ideas, and you coached me through that beautifully, we pinned down what was the central focus of the book, then it came flooding out, and it, as you said, it was released a year ago as yesterday. Just amazing ride.
It has been incredible, and you were so tenacious and you were so determined. And I do think, there is that thing. I mean, that sometimes the birth of a book can be really seem to be quite troublesome. And actually, the more one just goes with it and sticks with it and remembers, I think this touches very much on what you talk about and what you teach and what you coach on. It's about authenticity. Your own, really finding your own voice was so important for you, and being able to express it so that it was properly truthful to your mission in life. Tell us a little bit about that work that you do more generally. I mean, obviously people can get hold of this book and understand it and read it, but tell us in your, what is it that drives you to work with people to find that authentic success for themselves?
Well, I think like a lot of people in my own early career, Sue, I had been lucky enough to work for a large organization, get a lot of training and development support and encouragement. But it was very much focused on performance and achievement and, how to achieve even more, add even more value to the business. And I understand why. But what I found, like a lot of people, was that the more you achieve, the more people give you to achieve, right? So it led to what most people would see as quite a good degree of success in my early career. I was being, supported towards senior management at a very young age, and all of that good stuff. Those trappings of success were starting to come my way, the promotions and so on. But actually, what I was finding was that as my standard of living was going up, my quality of life was actually coming down. I was wanting to take care of my health and have wonderful social relationships and lots of free time to do other things that weren't work, and it all was just getting crowded out. And so really there was a big reset for me. I talk about it in the book as my early midlife crisis. Age 29, where I was actually off on maternity leave, and I took stock and I reset, and that led to the work I do today, which is largely around coaching the emerging leaders, the future leaders of usually medium to large sized organizations, and helping them to not only get there, that's the achievement piece, but also to love here, to have an extraordinary, meaningful, deeply satisfying experience along the way. And what I discovered in my actual coaching work was that drove an even higher level of performance. And even now, all these years later, so it gives me goosebumps to talk about these moments of revelation where I was like, we don't have to compromise. We don't have to choose between a high achieving life and a happy one. We can have both, but we need to think differently in order to create that. And as you say, authenticity is the key, which means it's different for everyone.
Yeah. I mean, we're not hamsters on wheels, are we? This is the thing. It's like, and I think so often it's we can be our own worst enemy, in that career progression, in that drive to achieve, to be successful, to be seen, to be doing the right things. And who are we really looking after? Other people, not always ourselves. And I love the way that you present your own story as well as the stories of others.
Yes.
Lots and lots of stories in this book that help us to see this and to help people, those emerging leaders that you're talking to help them to understand that it's what lies inside them. That's where the beauty is, the success is. And that is the important thing, not
100%. I mean, what it comes down to from my point of view, Sue, and this became the heart and soul of the book as the manuscript emerged, really, is that there is something unique and wonderful about each and every one of us. We've got something to share and to contribute with the world that only we can bring. Right? And that sounds like unbelievably idealistic. Right? I can hear myself say those words now, and sort of hear that maybe being questioned in the minds of perhaps one or two listeners. It's like, really? But actually, we have authentic strengths, we have talents, we have passions and values that are uniquely our own. And the struggle with this comes in because most of us have not been trained, really, or even encouraged to look inside for answers. We've been shown what good looks like. We've been shown what success looks like. We've even been shown what, for example, good leadership looks like. And then, in a very well-intentioned way, many of my clients have twisted themselves up like a pretzel over the years to fit that mold, instead of discovering who they were born to be as a leader and what they were uniquely and authentically positioned to bring. And the huge payoff of discovering this is not only that your work becomes more enjoyable and deeply satisfying, but also much, much more sustainable. Because when you are playing with, what I call in the book, your zone of genius, right? When you are in that sweet spot of what you care about and your authentic personality, your true self is in the driving seat. And what that means is whatever you put your mind to, whatever work you actually engage in, you're pouring energy in, but you are energized in return. Right? So instead of feeling drained and wrung out at the end of the day. You're tired, you're ready for your pillow, but you're still buzzing off, feeling like the right person in the right place at the right time. It's an indescribable experience of being fully alive. And so it's a win for everybody. It's a win for you, and it's a win for, your business, your colleagues, your clients in the world, for you to show up in that most authentic way.
Amazing. And this is the work that you go into these often quite large companies you work with, don't you? And you work with their emerging leaders to help them to explore these and be those amazing leaders that they, as you say, with that kind of uniqueness that they have. That's wonderful, Kate. So you've obviously been sharing these ideas and approaches with these clients for a long time. What would you say, what difference has the writing and the publishing of the book made to you in the sharing of your work and in the development of your own business?
Oh, it's made a huge difference already. And it also, even a year down the line, feels like it's just at the very beginning of something wonderful. But a couple of things I would say is I didn't fully appreciate the credibility boost that would come from being a published author. I mean, because of the many conversations we had, my motives for writing this book was I wanted it out in the world, and I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to help anybody who took the time to read it, or more recently, now we've got the audio book, people can listen as well, which is wonderful. And that was genuinely my heartfelt desire. Was I knew the power of these ideas. I knew the impact it had. I also had so many clients saying, gosh, I wish I'd known this sooner. Right. So I just thought, right, a book is a wonderful, accessible, low-cost way of putting these ideas in a lot of people's hands. And what I hadn't appreciated was that, as I say, this credibility boost of in the minds of people who are thinking of engaging me as their consultant. It was like, oh my goodness, she's literally written the book on this subject. Let's talk to her. So that's the first thing, is just how much easier that first conversation is. But the other thing that is coming from it is that having written the book and having come up with the framework in the book, I have now got a level of conscious awareness and clarity around my work that I have never previously had. I had to organize my thinking. I had to come up with a sensible sequence and really think about the kinds of recommendations and suggestions and activities I could suggest to make the book as rich and valuable as possible. And one of the things that's happened in the last year is, alongside my coaching, is I've had the opportunity to create these 2-hour virtual masterclasses on some of the key themes, the key topics in the book, like discover and develop your authentic strengths, for example, is a 2-hour masterclass. So there's all of this huge spin-off, because what I was creating as I created the book was actually the framework of my work and the key pillars that underpin it. And now I can offer that in new and interesting ways for my clients and their staff. It's just wonderful. Wonderful.
I think it's really interesting, that, Kate. And I remember, when we do think back to that period of time when you were deep into the development of the manuscript, and there were times where you would be frustrated. There would be times where you would be, lots and lots of tears, and lots of frustrations, and really, it felt so hard. But when we look back and we think about where you were, and you weren't just writing a book. You were, as you said, you were actually, in a way, honing and crafting years and years of experience, and the work that you've been doing. It was about kind of, it's almost like it wasn't a rough diamond. You weren't a rough diamond. You were very polished, but expression of your work,
Yes.
and the kind of putting it into a framework like you're describing now. That was the polishing piece. And that polishing piece, that it was enabled by you writing the book, I would
Yes.
say. And I think I hear this a lot, and I think that was quite a surprise to you. I don't think you knew that was going to be part of the journey. I didn't either. I didn't expect that. But there it was, and it took a while, but my goodness, it's been worth it. And I know this happens. I've heard other authors say something similar, where it's taken perhaps a little longer than they thought or intended, but actually what they've come out with, I mean, we've got an author talk with the wonderful Sarah Higgins next month, and she is very similar to you. I'm sure she won't mind me saying, actually she took a good 5 years in a way, actually, to write her book. But actually, it wasn't just about writing the book. It was, again, it was about really polishing that framework and refining those ideas and honing the way that it was presented to other people. So they went, I get that. And those lovely masterclass chunks that you're doing now are so perfect, aren't they?
It's just amazing, because of course, the nice thing about running masterclasses and those kinds of more accessible things, my big talent development programs are small cohort. They're usually about 15 people. I work with them for a year. It's amazing for the people involved, but it doesn't touch a lot of people. Right. Whereas the masterclasses are kind of the answer, and the book, especially in combination, they're the answer to the question, how can we get this early in our lives, early in our careers, at a really affordable price point for my clients. But I really want to just comment on what you said there about, like, this book. I remember you and I had a conversation about how, when I was getting frustrated and the tears were starting to come because it was all taking far longer than I'd ever imagined, and I was struggling with it. And I was in that place of, you said to me, you could write a how-to manual in 6 months, Kate, but you don't want to write a how-to manual, do you? And I was like, no, I want this book to kind of be my legacy. I want it to be potentially transformational for people who take the time to read it. And the reviews on Amazon and the conversations I've had with clients and people who've reached out to me shows that we achieved that. So, this is kind of a legacy book in a way. And that does take time, because you're reaching into kind of the depths, if you like, of your experience and your wisdom. And then, of course, honing your craft. I'd never written a book before. I wasn't one of these people who journaled my entire life or anything like that. So I had wonderful support from yourself and one of your wonderful editors, Beverly Glick. Shout out to Bev, guiding me in terms of that voice and that tone. So it actually sounded like me, because my early writing didn't sound like me at all, right, as a person. And so the whole thing was just a most extraordinary journey, and I'm just very, very glad I got the help that I needed. Do you think I ever thought I was going to write this book in the short gaps between client sessions? It was never going to happen, and I'm so grateful for your support along the way.
Oh, that's so welcome. So I mean, we loved working with you, Kate. It was tremendous, and we're absolutely thrilled to bits that the book is here and is doing so well, and doing so well for you. And so tell us, what is it that, if people read this, what is it you want them to get? What is it that that I love the fact that what you just said about how it can reach many, many more people. What would be their ideal takeaway from this book?
Well, it's one of the things that's been really astonishing over the last year or so, is hearing how very different the impact is for different people. It's almost like, if you read the reviews on Amazon, you won't even know what to expect from the book. You've got people saying, oh, it's a strategy and it's full of top tips, and then the next person is saying, this is a book about self-love, and I'm going, is it? Yes, I think it is. So it's this very amazing experience as an author to have your work reflected back to you through all of these different lenses of the readers. But I think if there was something that's universal that I would really love people to understand is that underneath the person you were trained to be, conditioned to be, to fit the mold, is someone more magnificent than you can ever even imagine, just waiting to come out. And that aspect of you comes out in your most brilliant moments. So if you can think of a time when you were at your brilliant best, when you made a difference and it was effortless and enjoyable for you to do so, your true self was in the driving seat in that moment. But it's a little bit difficult when you're just self-reflecting to understand what's in play there. That's why there's a big section in the book to help that self-discovery process, because most of us are very aware of the strengths that we've got that we cultivated with blood, sweat, and tears, right? Like if something didn't come easily and naturally, and we really had to grind to hone it to a skill and a strength, we're usually very, very aware of that. What we're less consciously aware of is what comes easily and naturally and is just an expression of who we are and who we were born to be. And really, that's what I hope people will get from this book, is a chance to discover a whole new level of who they are and what they have the chance to delight in bringing to the world. And then obviously later in the book, we then talk about like this idea of dream destination, having a goal with soul, something that is an outlet for all of that magnificence and an opportunity to create and contribute something meaningful and richly rewarding to the world. And yes, there's top tips and techniques. There's a plethora of them sprinkled throughout the book. But for me, it really is. Your colleague Paul helped me with the back cover blurb, but basically it's the route map to authentic success, and it is a far easier, more enjoyable, more humane route map to success than I think the one that most of us have been offered over the years.
I think that's wonderful, Kate. You mentioned it earlier, but I do love this, the term that you use in the book, the zone of genius. You know, in a way, I suppose what you want us all to do is to discover it and to discover our own zone of genius and to live in that place for as long and as sustainably as we possibly can. And that's what I think you really help us you really show us how to do in this book. Partly through the fabulous storytelling, but also that wisdom, that deep wisdom that you have from working with so many people for so many years as a coach and a wonderful, wise woman. So thank you for giving this to us and for giving us such an amazing book and an amazing experience of working with you, because we've absolutely loved it. I'm going to ask you one last question, because I just wonder, especially after just going back a little bit onto what you said about and you're so honest and so clear about the struggles you had with this book, actually, although you would never know it if you read it, because it reads like you just, it was easy to do. But if you had one sort of top tip, if you like, to give to anyone who might be inspired by you or inspired by any of the other people in this series to perhaps put their toe in the water and write their own book, if you had one tip for them, what might that be from your wonderful experience of writing and publishing your book?
Well, I'll remind you of a tip I've already given, and then I'll give you a bonus tip, because the one tip is get help. Just because there is this beautiful work that only you can do does not mean you have to do it alone. And I am deeply grateful to you and your entire team, and to my book buddies, the small, carefully curated group of aspiring authors that I spent many hours early in the morning, writing this book, supporting one another in silent writing. Absolutely amazing. And, my bonus tip, if you like, which really flows from there, is don't feel like you need to write this in isolation, right? I think those of us who have a predisposition towards perfectionism, I'm a recovering perfectionist, right? I think there is this idea that I have to get this perfect and beautiful before it can go out into the world.
Yes.
And that is absolutely a big trap. Okay. What I would encourage is get your first draft manuscript down and then start sharing it with people that you know your work, value you, appreciate you. Maybe you've done some great work together, and ask them if they will be your beta readers. Right. I think it was about 6 or 7 brave souls who waded through my raw original draft manuscript, which was considerably longer than it ended up in the book. And they told me, Sue, what worked for them. And I did more of that. It was like, we love these stories. Can we have more stories? Love these little activities. Can you mark them out in some way and include more? So there was a lot went into the book based on that feedback, but they also told me things that weren't working, where I'd gone into too much detail, or where something needed a little bit more exploration. So, there is this. I began to see it as an iterative process, and that's what I would really encourage any aspiring author who is thinking about this right now, is see it as something that you will create it almost in layers or in phases or stages, and share it with the people you most want to help and make a difference to. Share it early and get their input, because they will help you to shape it into the book that you are most gifted to write. So yeah, share it.
That is a wonderful tip. Share it with people as you write it, and I love that. Thank you so much, Kate. Kate, this has been an absolute dream. We have really loved having you on the show. We've loved working with you, as I've said before, and we just want to make sure that everybody knows that your book is available to order, obviously from any of your favorite bookstores, and of course writebookpress.com. Now the audiobook is available as of yesterday. So Amazon, Audible, iTunes. You can get your audiobook version if you're a listener, and you'll hear Kate herself reading it, which is wonderful. And finally, if you have been inspired by Kate's journey, or any of the other authors in our series, and you would like to have a chat with us about writing your own book, please don't be shy. You can go onto our website, rightbookcompany.com/discovery, and book yourself in for a discovery call with me, to tell me about your great idea for your book, and for us to explore together how you might make it happen and make all this amazing life-changing stuff go on as a result. So thank you again to lovely Kate, and we look forward to seeing everybody at the next author talk from the Right Book Company. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye now.